Hi, my name's Daryl, and here's your Jeep news for May 28th. So I'm going to call this my Yosemite edition because we're currently on vacation at Yosemite National Park. And yeah, I can't help myself. I've got to check Jeep news every morning just to see if something has happened. And Stellantis has got some really big news, so let's get into it. So Stellantis yesterday, or actually this morning, I guess like at 3 in the morning, they named Antonio Filosa CEO of Stellantis. And ever since Carlos Tavares' resignation or firing, there's been a lot of interest in who was going to be named CEO of Stellantis. I really wanted Tim Kuniskis to take the leading role. I thought he'd be really good for the company, but he pretty much declined the position. He really was more interested in creating cool products as opposed to taking kind of the helm of Stellantis and running the entire brand. There's a lot of politics and other kinds of things involved, and he wasn't really interested in that. So let's look at a couple things that the press release says about Antonio Filosa. So basically, he's going to be taking over CEO as of June 23rd. Now, they do have to hold a shareholder meeting. That's going to be in the next couple of days, but he is expected to be approved by the shareholders and be CEO. They say that the board selected Antonio Filosa based on his proven track record and hands-on during his 25 years in the automobile industry. Antonio has really had positions of leadership within Stellantis, both in North and South America, and pretty much anything he's touched within Stellantis he's proven very successful in leading. In South America, he actually launched a Jeep in Brazil, which quickly became one of the brand's leading markets outside of the United States. He also worked in Europe as well, and the models of Jeep continue to be one of the best sellers for the company, thanks to the huge popular products such as the Jeep Avenger. And most recently, he's been a Chief Operating Officer of the Americas since December of 2024, as well as he just recently took over quality assurance. Now, he was responsible for cutting some of the prices of various Jeep products, as well as, because of those pricing reductions, he reduced a lot of the inventory that was, on dealership lots over the last couple of months. So he's done really a great job, and I'm pretty excited to see, as he takes the leadership role of Stellantis, what it's going to do to the brand. He understands the Jeep brand. When he took over as CEO of Jeep, he actually moved to the United States just so that he could better understand, the North American market. And he kind of, even though he's Italian, he really does have Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram spirit. I think embodies him, and he really values those brands. He was asked about Chrysler, and he thinks Chrysler has great things coming up in the future. And so really happy to see this happening with Stellantis and for them to name a CEO, and hopefully there's only going to be good things to come for the brand. Now, in my next news story, let's talk about the Jeep Gladiator as well as the Jeep Wrangler 4xE. So if you followed my channel and these news reports, you know that I'm really interested in the new Gladiator 4xE coming. We've been looking at different trucks, and I've always wanted a plug-in hybrid truck, and this is the first one. I think that's good. There's a bear, Nicole. We have a bear walking through the woods. So you don't see this very often. All right, so I'm back after chasing that bear. We've come to Yosemite, I think probably at least 5 times, and it's kind of famous for having bears. There's bears lockers and stuff, but I've never actually seen a bear in Yosemite. You can sometimes hear them at night because you hear them trying to get into things in the evening. They have bear lockers and stuff to keep everything protected. But this is the first time I've ever seen a bear in Yosemite. It's in the middle of the afternoon. It's like 2 o'clock, 2:30, and he's walking right through the middle of the campground. It's pretty amazing. So I think I got some video of that. I'll include that with this. But it was pretty crazy. But anyway, so let's get back to business here. This one was from TFL Now. They actually spotted a Well, not a brand new. This is a kind of a test mule, Jeep Gladiator 4xE. And if you remember, I actually did a little bit of a story about the upcoming Gladiator 4xE. It was expected to arrive, I think actually, sometime in 2025, but it looks like it's not going to be actually arriving until 2026. But the nice thing about the new Gladiator 4xE as well as the Wrangler 4xE is there's going to be a number of improvements in regards to both horsepower, torque, and EV range. So they're using a brand new transmission that has increased horsepower in the transmission as well as increased battery life, or I think some efficiencies. And so you're going to see, instead of around probably 22 to 25 miles of EV range, going to 30 miles. And then the horsepower improvements, I can't remember what the Wrangler 4xE had as far as horsepower. I think it's about 425 horsepower, but I think they're talking about somewhere in the range of, I should go back to look at that previous video, but I think you're going to get anywhere from 50 to 75 additional horsepower because of the increased battery as well as the motors, the electrical motors, the increased power in them. So thinking maybe the Gladiator is going to have somewhere around 500 horsepower, and maybe the Wrangler 4xE is going to have 500 horsepower as well. So if you look at this video from TFL Studios, they showed a new Gladiator 4xE, and you could tell this is kind of like a test mule. You can see its charging port right there, but you don't just get the Gladiator, you actually get a Wrangler 4xE right next to it. And so the Wrangler 4xE is charging, but the Gladiator 4xE isn't charging. But they're kind of testing them both at the same time because they're using that brand new automatic transmission and that additional horsepower. So they're also testing it. I think they're testing this in the mountains of Colorado at elevation, so probably around between 6,000 and 10,000 feet. And that's really important when they're testing a Gladiator, just to see that it can do the towing that it needs to do at that elevation, because it is using that 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. So it needs to be able to work at elevation and not overheat due to towing. And so really excited to see that there is now a test mule out there testing on the Gladiator 4xE. So hopefully we'll be hearing some news relatively shortly from Jeep. Now, in my last news segment, let's talk about the Jeep Wagoneer. So if you don't know, in 2026, they're coming out with the brand new Jeep Wagoneer. It's not, not really a new generation of the Wagoneer, but it's a brand new powertrain. Pretty significant change. So currently in the Wagoneer, you basically have the Hurricane engine or the inline-6 engine. Makes really good horsepower, somewhere around 430 horsepower. But this one is based on the Ram Charger's kind of plug-in hybrid or range extending EV technology. And so they're not only doing a range extending EV on the Ram Charger, but they're also doing it on the Jeep Wagoneer. So it's going to have somewhere in the range of 650 horsepower and about 700 miles of range. And so, if you're really not interested in a pickup truck, but you do want something that, you want an SUV that can tow quite a bit, it's probably going to have in the range of 14,000 pounds of towing capacity, and it should have a payload of somewhere around 2,500 pounds. And so if you don't really want to tow with a truck, but you want to be able to tow, Jeep Wagoneer with its plug-in hybrid powertrain, the range extending EV, is going to be something pretty special. So this should be at dealerships as well, sometime in the middle of 2026. This is Daryl with your Jeep News, and I hope to see you again very soon.